Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and WoW's 20th anniversary update, patch 1105, is finally here for both regions of NA and EU, or hopefully EU, by the time you're watching this video. And this update brings with it so many new changes. Not only do we get class changes, bunch of new content, world bosses, so many different collectibles to earn, but also an opportunity for players to really catch up, not only in levels, but also in their gear. If you look at your level brand new characters, try out all the newest class changes, whether you're looking to pick up a couple of vaults along the way, or if this is potentially your first time diving into the World Soul Saga, then right now is the best time for you to catch up any of your characters when it comes to gear and progression, so you're ready to be competitive within Season 1 of the War Within. And that's exactly what I want to do in today's video, is to give you guys a guide of how to catch up as quickly as possible during the patch 1105. As always, if you want to see more guides like these for the War Within expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. Now, to get some catch-up gear for a max level character, you don't have to go any further than the Caverns of Time, or specifically the outside grounds of the Caverns of Time, where a huge portion of the 20th anniversary festivities are being held, because this is where you'll find a variety of weekly quests for the 20th anniversary that award you some of the celebrations currencies, such as the bronze tokens, which you'll use to buy cosmetics, gold, time war badges for some of the other collectibles, but also champion track gear. Yes, every single one of the weekly quests awards you actually competitive items equal to Nerber Palace normal difficulty raid tier. And all those items come from the new raid dungeon that was added for this event, the Blackrock Depths. So any of the items from Blackrock Depths raid dungeon could potentially show up in your boxes. However, we'll be utilizing all of those weekly events to find additional gear upgrades, some of which will be utilized to upgrade a brand new character, while others will be used for our ults that will gear later down the line. And one of those weekly events is going to be time walking dungeons, which are a fantastic starting point for a brand new character, but also are great if you're just leveling a character in general. Time walking dungeons will scale to your level. That means any gear you have or whatever level you are, the content will always be relevant for you, and you can start queuing for it starting at level 10. It has a weekly quest which will be utilizing, but also every single boss that you slay within a time walking dungeon can drop you additional loot. It's not amazing, but it's a great starter for a fresh new character. Items of 567 item level explorer gear, which are at least a little bit better than what some of the early items that you can pick up just within Castlegar itself. But you also get to earn type more batches that you can also spend with a time walking vendor. Speaking of the new classic time walking vendor, that one also has a variety of different cosmetics, such as mounts, toys, and other fun items, as well as transmugs for you to collect. But also towards the back end of the actual listings on the vendor, you'll see that there's gear there as well. Not amazing gear, but really cheap, great starter gear that doesn't cost a lot of these badges, and there's a good chance if you've done any time walkings in previous expansions, you can easily transfer that currency from other characters onto a fresh one to be able to purchase items as soon as you hit max level. And that is the biggest advantage of this type of gear. Another weekly event that also rewards gear is Chromie's Codex, which is a big group activity that's kind of like in between of a dungeon, but also a bit of a raid. It's a massive kind of open world-esque activity where you follow Chromie around to restore the gates of Encourage. And at the end of it all, you get not only the weekly bonus, which is going to give you more champion gear, but also the box from that event gives you gear that is bound to your warband. It is veteran track items, which are great for alts. Like if you do this on your main, just to potentially get a champion track item from the weekly box, you can at least then share that warband item with some of your alts later down the line, which is one of the bigger advantages of this event specifically. Now, another event that's really worth your time are the new world bosses, as well as the weekly loot. Just like all of the other weekly events that also award you champion track gear, but also every single one of these world bosses all have a chance to drop you additional veteran track gear that can be further used to upgrade the item level of a fresh new character. Now, during the previous anniversary updates, it was a known fact that every one of these world bosses had a daily lockout. So it wasn't like a world boss like in Castlegar that you can only kill once a week at a potential chance at loot. All of these guys dropped items or had the potential to drop items daily. And if that is still the case for this anniversary update, that would be a huge boon for any brand new characters that have no gear whatsoever, because catching up with some veteran track items and be able to easily upgrade them at least sets you a little bit closer to being able to fully gear out a character and makes it easier for you to acquire champion track and hero track items with a higher item level. Plus, some of those bosses used to drop some really unique items like a neck piece from Lord Kazakh that added you additional fire damage, which for some classes, even at veteran track, held quite a significant bit of power. Like during season 3 of Dragonflight, the neck from Lord Kazakh was actually my best in slot neck piece for pure single target damage. Might have been the way that my class was designed back then, or maybe the neck just scaled super well, and I'm not sure if that same thing will happen this time around, but definitely worth looking out for in case you get items with bonus effects. Now, another source of gear that we have is the Blackrock Depths Raid Dungeon, which is the dungeon of Blackrock Depths, but repurposed into a bigger group raid. I actually got to do it recently, not all the bosses, but a huge majority of them, and it's incredibly fun. The actual content itself is definitely worth experiencing, but like any other raid, it comes in 3 difficulties. Unlike Nuremberg Palace, this one is only available in LFR, Normal, and Heroic, and even comes with some gear vendors for some bad luck protection. And you don't even need to be max level to experience the raid, as it actually is a level up raid for lower level characters. I believe you may need to be a level 30 or above in order to be able to get into the LFR version of this raid, but it even lets you level by raiding, so you don't even need to be max level to experience this brand new piece of content. Back to all the bosses, however, all of them have a lot of powerful pieces of gear. Some of them are simple stat sticks that have a high item level, while others have bonus effects, like maces that deal additional fire damage, or trinkets that cause your character to attack a second time. And all of those items, depending how they're tuned, could potentially be some of your best in slot gear for the Season 1 of War Within. On top of it, this raid comes with some bad luck protection. As you slay these bosses, there's a chance you may get some items that are an upgrade for you, and sometimes you just don't get lucky. That's just how it is. But every single boss that you slay within this raid also drops you coffer keys, but also all the mini boss encounters as well, so there's an opportunity to get a lot of coffer keys as you run through the entire instance. These coffer keys can be traded in to gear vendors for the different difficulties of this raid. The LFR vendor, the normal vendor, and the heroic vendor, and the coffer keys also have a LFR, normal, and heroic quality attached to them as well. Once you amass enough of these keys, you can go to the vendors for the raid for different difficulties and purchase some guaranteed drops that come from any of these bosses, which provides you with some bad luck protection. There is, however, a limitation on how many keys you can amass for this event, and it says in the tooltip over the keys that only you can have 120 of these keys, and I haven't been able to test this out on PTR. I don't think there was just enough people to even be able to run the raid multiple times to be able to amass enough coffer keys to see how it works, but I think that 120 coffer keys is the limit for the entirety of 1105. So you have some bad luck protection for this raid, but not an infinite amount of bad luck protection. There seems to be a limit in place, but at the very least, there is some opportunity for you to get guaranteed pieces of gear of 3 different difficulties, since those keys and those limitations for maximums are separate for each and every one of the difficulties. Now, the raid itself is actually, I found it to be a little bit more difficult than I expected. But for the most part, when we have time walking raids, we have the Black Temple and Ulduar for Wrath of the Lich King and the Firelands for Cataclysm. All of those raids scale your character down, which means your character's gear doesn't really matter within those raids. However, this raid actually scales up to your level, so you need some decent gear at max level in order to have an easier time with all of these bosses, which is a pretty big difference. And walking into this raid on an undergeared character, plus maybe you're not familiar with any of the mechanics, does mean that you are most likely going to have a much harder time in this instance, especially if nobody in your group really knows exactly what to do and how to deal with the mechanics accordingly. These were not the most difficult fights I've ever experienced, especially comparing it to the Nuremberg Palace that is currently available for us within Season 1, but they do have a bit of challenge of their own. So if you are trying to pug this instance, I would recommend at the bare minimum, if you're trying to do, let's say, normal, for example, between 590 item level, or even better yet, 600 item level minimum for normal. That should be just enough for you to have just enough health and just enough stats in order to account and deal with majority of the game's mechanics. But that item level only goes up to closer to like 610 or 615-ish or so, anywhere around that ballpark if you're trying to do this on heroic. I feel like if you have a decent group and you could topple all these bosses fairly easily without too many setbacks, I think it could be an efficient way for you to be able to farm out some gear from this raid tier. That being said, if you are just trying to get your weekly box from this, maybe you don't have a fully geared character, but are trying to get as many boxes done in order to get yourself gear before you can jump into the normal or the heroic version, you can also do this raid on LFR if you're just trying to get that weekly box in order to get some immediate upgrades. Now, if you check out some of the weekly Dornagal activities, you'll actually notice that those will start award you with new currencies, specifically the bronze tokens that are necessary for some of the cosmetics and the rewards for the 20th anniversary. But the actual gear rewards from those have not been upgraded, which is a bit of a shame and maybe a bit of an oversight. But all of those boxes still will award you veteran track gear. They are still worth doing if you're trying to get a lot of the collectibles for 20th anniversary, but they're not amazing when it comes to raw gear, especially with the champion track items that you can obtain from the outside of the area of the Caverns of Time. Besides this, throughout the 20th anniversary event, we're still going to have weekly bonus events that award you hero track rewards. At least based on the calendar. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to have, let's say, TBC time walking and Wrath of Lich King time walking and Cataclysm and Mr. Pandaria time walking at the same time as Classic time walking, which is active throughout the entirety of the 20th anniversary update. But if all of those events are still present, every single one of them awards you hero track gear for diving into the time walking raids of those expansions for Black Temple and Burning Crusade, Ulduar in Wrath of Lich King, as well as Firelands for Cataclysm. And those are still very much worth doing whenever they do come around, with the next one available in just a handful of weeks after the launch of the 20th anniversary event. So every one of these events are definitely still worth doing, so be sure to check out the calendar from time to time to make sure that you don't miss out on even more gearing opportunities during the 20th anniversary update. But with everything being said, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this guide video, and I hope all of you guys did enjoy it. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community to be up to date with all of the 1105 and 20th anniversary updates, as well as any future updates arriving to the War Within expansion. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.